to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Dream 100 Show. I'm always looking to provide content to help you up-level, get to that next level, sharpen your axe, and just continue to dominate. And I wanted to share something that was very impactful on my life, and I believe it's going to be very impactful on your life. And I'm not going to say that I invented this by any means, but I want to give you my interpretation, but more so, what have I been doing with the concept to actually put it into practice? And that really is the key. Far too often we go to all these seminars, we read all these great books and listen to audiobooks, and then at the end of a year you look and see, well, how much of that did I actually implement? So speed of execution, speed of implementation is very key. So I recently listened to the audio version of the book Who Not How. And like a few other books, most recently 10X is Easier Than 2X, which I shared my findings and how it's kind of changed my mindset and a lot of the strategy for this year. This book has done the exact same thing. And it's interesting because one of the questions that I get, and it's asked in a lot of different ways, but it's that generic question of what is the secret to business? What is the secret to marketing? What's your one point of advice? What's your one suggestion? It's been asked like 100 different ways over my career, and I've given varying answers. Usually they're all within kind of a condensed topic of marketing, and usually the feedback is almost every business is under-investing in marketing, or they're not taking marketing seriously enough. That's normally what my answer is in less words than more. But I actually got asked that question on the plane ride home from Tampa today. So I was coming home from a short 1.5 day conference. I practice what I preach. I'm constantly sharpening my axe. At the very least, I am attending a half day, full day, multiple day seminar, event, mastermind, something every single month. Like I'm constantly sharpening my axe. I want to practice what I preach. And the person sitting next to me, they were on their laptop, they were writing, and then I kind of drummed up a little bit of a conversation. And they said, well, what do you do? And I said, I write books and I speak on the topic of marketing and the Dream 100 and kind of entrepreneurship in general. And then that question came up, oh, very cool. I'm looking at breaking into entrepreneurship. I currently work for XYZ company. And they asked for some tips. What would you suggest? Or I can't remember the exact way that he phrased it, but like, what would you suggest for someone in my shoes? And that's always a loaded question because everyone's situation is different. But we started talking about this concept of who, not how. And what I've realized is that most of us, myself included, look at our people, our consultants, our outsourcers as costs, when in reality, we should really be looking at them as an investment. So example, last week I was doing some forecasting for the first quarter, and I was looking like, oh my gosh, we're so people heavy, my costs are a little bit high. And unless we ramp things up, we're gonna be kind of heavy on the talent side in terms of money. And I used the word cost, and I caught myself and said, hold on a second. If these people are there to enhance and grow the business, if they're there to support our clients, if they're there to keep improving things, they're an investment. And all the other things that I've been adding, all the courses, the content, the training, the freelancers, all these other things, rather than seeing them as a cost, you need to start seeing them as an investment. But where that ties into this concept of who, not how, is that there were a couple of things last year that I decided not to go down the path. And won't get into all the details, but one of them was a really high-end mastermind training group that I'll use the exact word that I used last year, was very expensive. Like I can't justify that cost. And it didn't hit me until the last week or so that what was the opportunity cost of me deciding to not do that one thing? And there were a lot of other things that I decided to not hire an executive assistant for the last 6 months. What was the opportunity cost of me going and doing things that I am not the expert in, but more importantly, they're things that are not my MVA, my most valuable set of activities. So when I look at how am I most valuable to the company, to the team, to our clients, it's doing content like this, speaking, writing, producing videos, and then it's getting crystal clear on the vision. Crystal clear on the vision. Somebody recently interviewed Richard Branson and was asking, well, okay, great, you've had all these multiple billion-dollar companies. What's your secret to success? And the answer was get crystal clear on the vision of your business so that everyone that's there buys into it. Number two, hire amazing people, the best people you can hire. And C, get out of their way, give them the resources to execute. So my challenge to you in sharing this content and kind of giving you these things from a thinking standpoint, what I want you to do is to look at the last month and start to write down what were the different activities that you were doing each day. Now, you might not be able to remember all of them, but let's say you take stock of the last week or two. You might say things like, well, booking travel, doing your emails, preparing quotes, proposals, shipping product, like what were all those different things? And then what I want you to do is to start to ask yourself, are you the right who to be doing that? And if you're not, what I'm looking for you to do is start to get a little bit more serious around where can you invest in your business in better who's that can start to move the needle a bit faster. What I didn't realize until earlier this year was I was hindering our growth by saying, well, that's a lot of money. That's a big expense. That's a big cost. Well, let's save the money on hiring an executive assistant because I was being short-sighted. I wasn't seeing the bigger picture. That would be an investment in freeing up my time. So what if I was freeing up 5 or 10 hours a week that I could now work on content? Could I have gotten another book or two done in the last year because I wasn't in the weeds on all these things that I wasn't great at, that I was able to focus on my most valuable activities? So the first thing you need to do is to really start taking stock of all the things that you're doing. And it's not just at your business. Are there some things that you could do, essentially outsource your life that would free up more of your time? Simple examples. Could you be using Instacart, for example, to have your groceries delivered rather than spending a couple of hours every single week going and getting groceries? We have our groceries delivered. We have everything that comes from Target, for example, all gets delivered to the house. We're saving hours and hours and hours every single week because that thing is being outsourced. You can outsource having your laundry being done. And I'm not saying, okay, great, you've got all this extra disposable cash, just go and outsource everything. That's not what I'm getting at. But what I want you to start to think about is for you to up level this year, what are those who's that you need to add to your circle that can free up your time, and then combine that with what are the most valuable activities, the most valuable actions that you personally need to be executing. What are those things that you are insanely good at? What are the things that you enjoy most? What are the things that light you up that you're like, oh my gosh, I would do that one thing all day, every day until I were to die? Are there any of those activities? Now, there should be at least one or two of those. Like, I could give you my list. And when I started doing this, I started realizing I was wasting a ton of time on accounting stuff. Well, we have bookkeepers and I have a background in finance. And they were saying, well, I was slowing the team down. Yes, I were to specialize, and I know a lot about how to legally pay the least amount of taxes that you're legally responsible for, but there were better who's that could help me with that. So we brought in someone to help there and to do all the paperwork because I was in the weeds of tracking down different forms and I was getting stuck on how to fill them out. So we invested in that resource, decided to make the investment in an executive assistant. I just placed an offer and this person will be starting next week, Thursday. So it's not just about, okay, great, well, we should hire an assistant, we should do this. I want to put my money where my mouth is because I know and I'm able to invest in that so I can start to free up my time. And I need you to start doing the same thing for you. I would highly suggest you start thinking of this concept, who, not how, but really looking at your team as an investment. And if you start to look at people and you say, there's no way they're an investment, they are 100% a cost, then I would encourage you to really start to rethink that particular role. If that person is not adding any value to you or your organization or your end customers, that role probably isn't a needed role and you can reuse that money somewhere else in a who that you could actually see as an investment. But what I also want you to do do is to apply this lens when you're looking at different things throughout the year, whether they're training courses. I did a sales presentation last week for someone that was looking at our Done For You Dream 100. And the question was, well, can I just do this myself? And I said 100%. You can execute it yourself. But I pushed back and said, number one, is that the best use of your time? He said, well, no, not really. Well, what is the best use of your time? It was doing all the strategic stuff. They're starting to implement the entrepreneurial operating system. They don't have any of the documents done there. So the conversation was very easy after I started to look at the opportunity cost. But more so, you want to hire and you want to engage people that's their expertise. Doesn't make sense for you to sit down and write a grant that might take you 40 or 50 or 60 hours when you could hire someone who probably has templates and it might cost you 20% of the grant, but they're going to save you all of that time. Your time is your most valuable asset that you cannot get more of. So that is my action for you today. Start to apply the lens, who, not how, across all the different areas in your business and your life. But start to look at, are those the best uses of your time? And if not, how can you move those out to someone else? How can you delegate and then start to track how much of your time in going forward is being spent on those most valuable activities, those most valuable actions? Who, not how. Michael Tasner signing off. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Until next time. See ya.